Welcome to our introduction of the Agriquest Global Monitoring Tool and expert services from Geosys. This demonstration will show how weather monitoring can be linked to impacts on crop production. In this example, we will review the Australian wheat situation from 2017. These four maps display cumulative precipitation compared to the monthly average for June, July, August, and September. Here, the brown color shows precipitation patterns lower than average, while the blue denotes a higher than average precipitation pattern. We'll start our analysis with New South Wales, which represents approximately 30% of the total wheat production in the country. The persistent dryness should impact crop yields. In Victoria State, we see alleviation of the June dry spell begin in July and extend through September. Another interesting example is in northwestern Australia, which represents approximately 20% of the total wheat production. There is a dry spell in June, which is alleviated in August and September. Ultimately, we want to understand the impact this will have on the wheat crop. For this analysis, we will look at a new set of maps. Here, we see the vegetation vigor compared to the historical average. This index allows us to understand crop stress. The legend shows weaker than average values in red, whereas green hues show us better than average vegetation. What we see here is that month after month, in New South Wales, there is a degradation in vegetation, visible with the increased redness. In South Australia, we observe low values initially in June. However, it continues to improve and reach average values by September. Next, we'll generate a global map for a closer look at the region. Here, we see different charts that allow us to visualize the evolution of select parameters. In this example, we see the cumulative precipitation and vegetation index. Within the chart, we have the ability to select specific regions of interest. We want to review the current year, which is 2017 in this example, but we'll compare it to previous years. 2016 represents a good year, whereas 2006 represents a bad year, and the dotted line shows us the average. As we continue the analysis, we will see the correlation that exists between precipitation and crop conditions. The flattening of this line denotes drought, which is associated with the low vegetation chart below. Here, we can see that the current precipitation is below the dry years of 2007 and 2006, and the same pattern holds true with the corresponding vegetation. These elements allow us to build scenarios and yield estimates for the current season. Let's now look at the values and forecasts that we can use in our analysis: planted area, production, and yield. These three variables are shown together with the Olympic average, USDA's numbers, and local agency estimates, and finally, our forecast with a lower bound and higher bound. Red denotes historical bad years, yellow for average years, and the green for good years. We can show the historical information for harvested area and production. In New South Wales, we see a yield forecast of 1.3 tons per hectare, but this analysis should be conducted for all states and production subregions of wheat in Australia. Next, we will look at Victoria State and investigate this specific region for detailed analysis. Here, we see the cumulative precipitation in early August. To understand if this rainfall event positively influenced the crop, we will review the evolution of the vegetation index. The increase in the curve points to values that are close to the average. The vegetation peak, on the other hand, is close to 2013. We can therefore see an improvement due to the precipitation after the rainfall event. On our table, we inserted a 2.2 yield that approximates to the 2013 and the Olympic average. Within the Agriquest tool, we can set alerts for weather events. To illustrate this, we'll set up a potential frost event. In the map, we have the minimum temperature for the period from August 15th to September 15th. On the legend, we see that the blue represents lower temperatures, while the red represents higher temperatures. We'll select an area of interest so we can look at the evolution of minimum temperatures. This is going to allow us to conclude on damaging thresholds to crops that can be compared to other variables that also lead to frost, in this case, precipitation. These values, compared to others, allow us to scale, measure, and compare the potential damage to the crop. Particularly, for this type of event, it's important to look at the objective data in order to challenge the market talk. Our expert services team uses a network of contacts and several tools that support their regional analysis, while taking into account the evolution of crop conditions and weather for the final estimate. Our team uses dashboards to help visualize all the information at once. The aim is to suggest estimates by geography and crop at the national level by taking different scenarios into account, from pessimistic to optimistic. In order to get our forecast, we take into account historical data, crop evolution, local agronomic practices, and of course, forecasted weather. With Geosys, this information is provided during an analyst call with our expert services team to provide insights and an open forum for discussion. A summary of the content is then delivered in a written report. To learn more about the Agriquest tool or our expert services, please visit geosys.com or email our team at na.sales@geosys.com.